I went to jail for not paying my child support. When my son was born, I was happier than I ever was, but that didn't last long. For the first few months, I felt like the luckiest guy in the world. I would come home from work exhausted, but the moment I held my son, everything felt worth it. My wife and I weren't perfect, but I thought we were happy. I believed we were a team. That belief shattered when I found out she had been cheating on me. At first, I thought I was just being paranoid. She started staying out late, keeping her phone locked, and acting distant. When I finally confronted her, she barely even put up a fight. She admitted she had been seeing someone else for months. It wasn't a mistake or a one-time thing. She had planned to leave me once she figured things out, but she was still deciding when. That was all I needed to hear. I filed for divorce immediately. I assumed the court would see things clearly. She was the one who had broken our marriage, and I was a stable parent with a full-time job. I thought that mattered. Instead, they handed her the house and gave her primary custody of our son. I was allowed visitation, but the child support payments they set were so high that I could barely afford to take care of myself. She wasn't even working. She had been living off unemployment, and now, thanks to the court, she had a steady stream of income from me. I moved into a motel because it was the only place I could afford. It was small, smelled like cigarette smoke, and had a leaky faucet that dripped all night, but I had no choice. Every paycheck was drained by child support, food, gas, and the cheapest rent I could find. She never asked if I was doing okay. She never checked to see if I could afford to eat. The only time she ever called was when she wanted to remind me to send the payment on time. I tried to keep up, but eventually, my bank account couldn't stretch any further. I was behind for 2 months when she finally decided to report me. I found out the hard way. I had just finished a long shift and was driving back to the motel when I saw flashing lights in my rearview mirror. I pulled over, thinking maybe I had a broken taillight. When the officer asked for my license, he took one look at his computer and told me to step out of the car. I was confused until he said there was a warrant for my arrest due to unpaid child support. I tried to explain my situation, but it didn't matter. I was put in handcuffs right there on the side of the road. Jail was a nightmare. The food was barely edible. The beds were nothing more than slabs of plastic, and I was surrounded by guys who were either too angry or too quiet. I spent every second thinking about how unfair it was that I was the one locked up while my ex was living in my house, using my money, and not even trying to get a job. By the time I got out, I was worse off than before. I had lost my job. I was even further behind on payments, and I felt completely defeated. I thought about giving up, but then something unexpected happened. It turned out that my ex had been using the child support for everything except our son. She had been posting pictures online showing off expensive haircuts, new clothes, and nights out with friends. Someone must have reported her because, out of nowhere, she was called back to court. This time, the judge actually listened. They reduced my payments, and since she had been caught misusing the money, she was required to get a job. She was furious, but there was nothing she could do about it. I started getting more time with my son, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was getting my life back. I'm still not in the best place. I'm working to rebuild what I lost, but at least I'm no longer drowning. More importantly, I finally get to be the father my son deserves, without the fear of losing everything again.